Bravely Default is in a very weird position as a franchise, but I would still say that it is one regardless. With the massive success of its first entry, Square seemed interested in expanding that little 3DS RPG into something bigger, and so now we have tons of side content. Spin-off browser games and mobile games, light novels, soundtrack CDs, art books, collector's editions and collectible figures, jewelry and apparel, and of course, manga. Now, I've gone over one instance of Bravely manga in the past, the Bravely Default Anthology. If you haven't seen that video, I'll link it on screen now and in the description so you can check it out after this one. But that isn't the only instance of manga for the series. These are 4 volumes of the Bravely Default Flying Fairy manga, originally serialized online through Famitsu starting in November 2014, and then later published into physical copies throughout 2015 to 2017, which I'm lucky enough to have gotten my hands on. Thank you, humble eBay merchant. With art by Naomi Taka and story by Taiki Nishizu, it's basically a retelling of the original Bravely Default story that shifts halfway through. Somewhat. Look, I'm about to give a full summary of the plot and my own personal thoughts on the manga afterwards, but I'm just going to say it now as a heads up. The first 2 volumes are more or less the same story. It's not until about halfway through the 3rd volume that the story goes through any significant changes that really matter. That said, I would greatly appreciate it if you'd watch all the way through, and in return, I will try to keep those summaries as quick and succinct as possible. Alright? I'm also going to link the version that I read through down below. It has a lot of names behind its translation, so go check it out and give them some thanks. And for one last note, I want to get this in before the end of the video so people don't miss it. There's something I want to promote. This is not a sponsor in any way, they didn't ask me to do this. This is just me wanting to share something really cool with all of you. This is Fairy Fantasia, a Bravely Default tribute album put together by the Pixel Mixers. It has 30 plus songs from across all 3 Bravely games, and is truly a work of art made possible by a lot of passionate musicians. You can listen to it on Spotify and YouTube. I'm gonna link the Spotify playlist in the description alongside the manga for you. Definitely go check it out. There's some incredible and very interesting mixes in that 2-hour beast. If you want some of my personal favorites to check out, the Magmel theme stands out as my number 1 pick because I genuinely believe it's actually better than the original track. But there's also Tiz's second theme, the Horizon Endless Plains, Punishing Battle, and their rendition of Never Forgotten, Never Erased was also immaculate. So go check it out, it's absolutely worth it. Alright, that's enough delay. Now, let's get right into the manga. The manga begins with a battle between Eri and the Alternus from a previous world, with Agnes's prayer going on simultaneously. We then go to Tiz and the destruction of Norende via the Holy Pillar. He wakes up in Kaldisla and runs back only to find a great chasm where his home remained. On a cliff's edge near the abyss, he spots Agnes praying and introduces himself to her and Eri. Then the Sky Knights attack, and Barris and Holly beat on Tiz for a bit before Agnes offers to go with them. As they are distracted, Tiz just barely manages to touch Barris's asterisk. No need to possess it, just making contact is enough, and he gains the powers of the monk, which he then uses to fend off the pair and save Agnes. The young Vestal also tackles Holly to steal her staff and use her white magic to heal Tiz during the fight. And since he has proved his worth, Agnes agrees to let him join her. Back in Kaldisla, they meet Ringabel, who's in the process of looking for Edea. Ominous appears, burns down a house, and gets reprimanded by Edea. After the Sky Knights leave, Ringabel offers to help the duo, and then they make for Centro Keep. Ringabel runs ahead, gets attacked by Edea, but when Ominous also attacks him and burns some troops, she turns on him and the party strikes back. Prior to the battle, Ringabel had given Tiz and Agnes extra asterisks that he had for some reason, so Tiz uses the monk and Agnes finally equips the white mage. Ringabel sneaks up and knocks Ominous out, ending the fight. Agnes and Edea then confront one another, and eventually the latter joins the party. Returning to Kaldisla, they find Heinkel attacking the city, and Owen gets killed. Later, Ringabel explains how his journal tells the future supposedly, and as it mentions the Eternians' airship at Lontano Villa, Agnes declares that they should take it for themselves. Sneaking into the villa, Ringabel tells the others to go on as he hides a guard they knocked out. Just as they reach the airship, Heinkel appears and attacks them, arguing with Edea the whole way. Each person equips their asterisk, including Edea with the Black Mage, and once Ringabel catches back up to them, they overtake the knight and escape on the airship. Setting off from Kaldisla, the Council of Six discusses the Sky Knights' failures. Reaching Anchime, the party finds Profiteur charging people out the wazoo for water, and Kamer giving a speech about how the Orthodoxy are the ones to blame for Anchime's misfortunes. When Ringabel gets distracted by some ladies, a hooded figure robs him of his asterisks, and Ringabel gives chase. Out at the oasis, he finds the Jackal and his bandits robbing poor, thirsty citizens of their belongings, and declares his intentions to stop him. During the fight, Ringabel manages to make contact with the monk Asterisk and manages to defeat Jackal with its power, taking his bag back along with the thief Asterisk. The next day, the group visits Kamer so Agnes can report her findings, but after Edea insults him for trying to pin everything on Agnes, they are kicked out. They decide to move on and make for the Temple of Wind, while Profiteur meets with Kamer to discuss their new orders from Eternia. Upon reaching the temple, Agnes explains her intent to cleanse the wind crystal of its darkness, but is unable to do so because the Vestal Garb is ruined. However, Agnes knows just the person to get it fixed, and they head out. Meanwhile, after being told to live a respectable life by Ringabel, Jackal helps a kid get some water from a scamming merchant, before bumping into Sigma Kint. Jackal thinks that Kint was hired by Profiteur to get rid of him, but then he just leaves. Classic Sigma male grind set. Getting lost in the Miasma Woods, the party is then attacked by Kint. They fight back with all they have, but sword magic sleep is too much. However, just before Kint finishes them off, he is afflicted by a heavy magical power before being warned to leave at once, which Kint does. When the heroes awake, they find themselves in the presence of Sage Yuliana. Despite being his usual pervy self, Sage agrees to fix up the garb while the rest of the group performs some household chores for him in the meantime. In the evening, Agnes has an encouraging chat with Sage about believing in her allies, and the next day, the Vestal Garb is repaired. However, just as the party returns to Harina, they encounter Profiteur on the border as he was waiting for them. As the battle ensues, however, Profiteur uses Takeover one too many times, causing Kint to leave due to lack of payment, and the party just wins by default. Reaching the temple once more, Agnes performs the Rite of Awakening and successfully cleanses the crystal of its darkness, leaving it in a state of blinding light, something that Ringabel seems to recognize. Back in Anchime, Kamer is spouting more anti-crystalism propaganda when the crew arrives, and Agnes convinces the crowds to await the winds. They believe in her, and sure enough, the wind comes, forcing Kamer to retreat. After chasing him down to the throne room, they find Kamer and Kint have teamed up on the promise of the kingdom's treasury to the mercenary, and they must do battle once more. Ringabel uses the thief to steal Kint's asterisk and hands it to Edea, who begins using the spell Fencer immediately. Unfortunately, Kint is more versed in the job's abilities than Edea, and he continues to press them all back as Kamer prepares to cast Meteor. In that moment, Jackal actually bursts through, knocks the wind out of Kamer, and steals the key to the treasury, meaning Kint's contract comes to a close, and so too has Kamer's reign. Turning over control of Anchime to the Prime Minister, the party goes to leave and continue on to Florum. Along the way, Ringabel realizes that the Jackal also stole back his thief asterisk, and flashing back to Anchime, we see that, while he's still a thief, Jackal is using his skills for slightly better reasons now, like aiding the poor. While en route to Florum in their airship, they are spotted by Alternus Dim. He jumps aboard and confronts Edea, trying to get her to come back to the duchy. As they almost start their fight, and Tiz and Agnes come to the upper deck, Alternus shatters the Skystone powering their ship, before retreating to let the heroes plummet to their deaths. Surviving the crash landing, Edea explains to the others who Alternus is. Tiz comments on how he has a cool helmet, and Edea admits she's never seen his real face. A silver lining emerges when they notice that they crashed right near the Temple of Water, but when they try to enter, Agnes states that the temple has been sealed off, and that Olivia must have locked it down for a reason. Thus, they head off to Florem, as in the distance, Mephilia and Artemia set fire to the woodlands, intent on destroying the fairies there. As the group enters Florem, Alternus meets with Einherja to inform her of the situation, while also asking about her sister's behaviors. With the rest of the group asking the matriarch about Olivia's whereabouts, Ringabel has run off again to chase girls, but instead he encounters De Rosa with multiple girls clinging to him. The blonde amnesiac notices the man's cologne, and soon after finds several women going mad on the side streets, claiming they weren't enough for him. As Ringabel tries to figure out what's happening to Florem's citizens, Edea mopes in her room wondering where he got off to. Suddenly, a spear flies through her window, and she immediately recognizes the figure that threw it from outside. Edea hurries out alone to confront Einherja, just as Ringabel returns to warn the party about Florem's situation. Making her way to the outskirts of the city, Edea encounters Einherja, who instantly forces her into combat. As the two go back and forth, demanding to know why they each stand with the people they do, Artemia and Mephilia arrive. When they attack Edea, Einherja tries ordering them to stand down, but their minds are lost. Just as the pair of sisters go to make their final move, Ringabel blocks the attack just in time, with Tiz and Agnes arriving just after. Eventually they subdue them, and head back to the inn to discuss their next goal, finding Olivia. Agnes agrees to enter the Sacred Flower Festival to send out a message to her friend, and during her speech, Victor and Victoria are watching from above the audience. Agnes ends up winning the festival, and shortly after receives a letter from Olivia, telling them that she is hiding in the Twilight Ruins. Now this is the part of the story where the manga begins to deviate a lot more from the game, so if you've been waiting for the new stuff, here it is. Upon reaching the Twilight Ruins, they find Olivia waiting for them, and she hugs Agnes dearly. Olivia explains that she's come to learn that they are the only two Vestals remaining, and that she sealed off the Temple of Water when she sensed the surmounting dangers of the world towards the crystals, as there were more than just the Duchy after them. However, when Olivia reveals that she sent out warnings to all the Vestals, Agnes declares that she received no such letter, only for Victoria to appear with Victor and answer that she had taken out the messenger. The two council members immediately attack the party, and in so doing, kill Agnes in the process. As the others scramble to fight back, Olivia is instructed by Eri to feed Agnes a potion, but it has no effect. With the other three cleverly swapping to White Mage, they reflect one of Victoria's spells back at her, sending her into a frenzy. As uncontrollable magic whips around the arena, Eri tries to convince Olivia to run away with her, but the Water Vestal refuses. Just then, a voice reaches Olivia and grants her a phoenix down to save Agnes. The Wind Vestal reawakens as a White Mage, and with her allies they fend off one of Victoria's attacks before blasting back with a combined Holy Spell. As the Duchy duo are defeated, Edea embraces the Vestals, glad that they are both alive. Returning to Florem, Edea and Einherja have a chat. The Valkyrie explains how she arrested De Rosa and wishes to face justice for her crimes, before wishing Edea well and leaving. At the Water Crystal, Eri begins to freak when Olivia and Agnes wish to awaken the crystal together. In the end, Olivia tries to do it alone, but Agnes joins in, and against Eri's wishes, they ultra-awaken the Water Crystal, sending beams of light across all of Luxembourg, energy so strong that they accidentally awaken the Earth Crystal as well. In the Duchy's headquarters, Templar Brave Lee is alerted of the situation and heads out to deal with it himself. At the end of this volume, there's a fun little Christmas theme bit with all the characters enjoying the holidays. With 3 crystals awakened, Brave begins to make plans to move in on the Vestal, along with a separate set of orders for Alternus. In Florem, the party starts packing up to leave, but Olivia requests a private audience with Ringabel. She informs him that Sage Juliana wishes to speak, and to bring that notebook if he wants to learn the secrets of his memories. The next morning, Olivia sees the party off as they set sail across the ocean. However, Idea notices that Ringabel is not with them, and Tiz produces a letter from their comrade about his intentions. Meanwhile, Alternus is soaring across Luxendark to reach the Sage as well, but spots the Echelot along the way. A saddened Idea meets him on the deck, but before they can start fighting, Alternus informs her that the Earth Crystal's power is gone, meaning no one in Eternia can receive their medical treatments, including her mother. Over in Eternia, this is already having an effect on Victoria, who passes away while holding Victor's hand. Tiz then enters the scene to defend Idea, but he is knocked away as Alternus calls her the Grand Marshal's daughter and escapes. Tiz and Idea have a talk about that information, and while Tiz seems fine with this revelation, a spying Anyez reveals herself and has no intentions of doing the same. Jumping back to the Yoyana woods, Sage begins to tell Ringabel of the truth. He tells of how 1800 years ago, he was part of the corrupt orthodoxy and fought against a powerful rebel, until the day that an angel fell from the sky. Back in Eisenberg, the rest of the group are traveling by horse and wagon while Idea and Anyez keep bickering. On the way, however, they find Zatz beaten in the road, and he tells them that it wasn't the sword bearers who did this. It was the Duchy of Eternia. Sage continues his tale explaining that the angel warned them not to wage war over the crystals, as it was all part of an evil being's plan. She then gave Sage a prophecy that he has witnessed come true over the ages, and in that moment, Ringabel remembers his past, how he was from another world, and how he couldn't save his world's Idea, just as Alternus arrives. In Eisenberg, Zatz explains that the Grand Marshal has brought his forces in full, and against Ares' protests, the group hurries to Eisen Bridge. Idea confronts her father as Alternus and Ringabel hurry back by airship. Seeing Idea start to falter against Braves' arguments, and still ignoring Eri, Anyez steps forward to stand by Idea's side, proclaiming the virtues of how they will be the ones to shape the world. Brave demands to test their resolve in combat, and begins his assault. However, as the battle rages, an airship crashes next to them all, with Ringabel and Alternus hopping out. The duo explain the truth about the evil being, before Ringabel reveals their identity, Eri. At the same time, Olivia has arrived in Eisenberg, looking to reach the Fire Crystal. Ringabel continues to explain the truth about himself, and at Sage's urging, who has suddenly appeared, Alternus takes off his helmet to prove Ringabel's claims. With Ares protesting now proven fruitless, she admits the truth and takes off to awaken the Fire Crystal, leaving the crystal beasts to hold them all off. Alternus, Brave, and Yoyana give the party their asterisks and tell them to chase Eri, while they fend off the beasts. The group split up to save the world, racing towards the finale. At the Temple of Fire, Olivia has already started to awaken the crystal, and is prompted by Eri to continue, telling her that Anyez was being controlled by a bad guy all along. Just as the party arrives, however, the awakening is complete. Eri bats Olivia away and reveals her true, grotesque form, knocking the Warriors of Light over with little effort. As Eri approaches the pillar of light generated by the crystal, she pauses and turns, feeling as though something is piercing through her. She then turns and faces the Reader, acknowledging that they've been there watching her all this time, cheering on Anyez and crew before covering our gaze and bringing an end to the story. Or so she believes. Instead, Anyez's prayers reach out to us, and the party is rejuvenated through our hopes. They combine their powers, feeling us joining with them, and together, they, or we, destroy Eri for good. As the door between worlds begins to close, Ringabel states that he intends to return to his own world. Idea desperately doesn't want him to leave, but Ringabel is firm in his decision. As he embraces her, he vanishes onward, leaving his friends to their new world. As the group departs, Anyez and Tiz go their separate ways as well, but only under the promise that should the world come under peril once more, that they will see each other again and go on another adventure. Now, to wrap things up, I'm going to offer my light thoughts and review of the manga as a whole. Art-wise, Mitaka did a phenomenal job with this series. It's a perfectly fitting art style for a Bravely manga, and the large page spreads were truly beautiful to behold. Absolutely love the art in this series, so good job. Now the story, I need to clarify. I think Nishizu also did a really good job of reinterpreting the Bravely Default narrative. We were hitting most of the plot points, but from a different angle, and it was really entertaining. Up until the manga needed to be wrapped up. I'm not going to beat around the bush on this one. Once you get to that part where Olivia survives, the pacing goes completely out the window, as some of you might have noticed. We're getting one region per volume, en route to do an entire world cycle's worth of story, and then suddenly one Crystal's Awakening activates another one, and then it's right onto Eisenberg, but the Duchy is already there. We don't even set foot in Eternia, let alone Grand Ship. And my suspicion is they either got bored with the manga, which I personally doubt, or they were forced to wrap things up for one reason or another. I have no idea what reason that could possibly be, considering the time frame that this manga was released during. No idea at all why they might have to give up on doing the whole plot. I guess we'll never know. But, all that aside, for what was written, I really liked it. I truly did. Like, that fourth wall airy jump scare was something I didn't know I needed in my life, and you two managed to make it real. So thank you to now Mitaka and Taiki Nishizu for bringing this wonderful series to the written page, even if the ending was a bit rushed. Just want to say thank you for watching the video. Make sure to go check out Fairy Fantasia. Links are all in the description. And make sure to like and subscribe. In conclusion...